You like to believe you are a logical person. You think you analyze, compare options, and then choose wisely. The hard truth from this book is different. Most of the time, your brain is on autopilot, using shortcuts that feel smart but quietly distort how you work, spend, invest, and even choose your relationships. Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is a deep dive into how your mind actually makes decisions and why that smart mind so often gets things wrong. Kahneman was a psychologist who won the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for showing that real human beings are not perfectly rational, especially with money and risk. This book is not just about psychology, it is about your promotion decisions, your stock picks, your startup bets, your marriage choices, and your daily habits. Let us start with the core idea. Kahneman says you do not have one mind, you have two modes of thinking, a fast one and a slow one. The fast mode, which he calls System 1, works automatically and effortlessly. It is what lets you read this sentence, recognize a friend's voice on the phone, sense anger in a colleague's tone, or drive on an empty road while your mind is elsewhere. The slow mode, System 2, is the deliberate analytical side. You use it when you calculate an EMI, compare two job offers carefully, build a financial model, or write an important email that cannot go wrong. System 1 is quick, intuitive, and associative. It connects whatever you see to patterns stored in your memory and spits out an instant judgment. You see someone frowning in a meeting, and without consciously thinking, you feel they are upset with you or something is wrong with the project. That is System 1 drawing a story from a facial expression in milliseconds. You need this fast system. You cannot analyze every small thing in life with a calculator and a spreadsheet, but there is a cost. System 1 is powerful and also dangerously imprecise. It jumps to conclusions. It answers the question it thinks you are being asked, not the question you are actually facing. System 2, the slow thinker, is capable of correcting these mistakes. It can question your first impression, check the numbers, and override your gut. But System 2 has its own problem. It is lazy. Your brain wants to conserve energy. So even when a situation deserves deep analysis, System 2 often just rubber stamps whatever System 1 proposes. You think you are being rational. In reality, the fast system has already decided, and the slow system is just giving a fancy justification after the fact. This is where heuristics and biases enter the story. A heuristic is a mental shortcut. When your brain faces a complex question, it quietly swaps it for a simpler one and answers that instead. The complex question might be, is this company fundamentally strong enough to invest my savings in? System 1 often replaces it with, do I like this company, its brand, its founders, its story? If you do not catch this substitution, you end up treating an emotional impression as if it were rigorous analysis. That is how people lose serious money on stocks, crypto, or risky startups. Kahneman and his collaborator Amos Tversky spent years designing questions that could be solved logically but were framed in ways that tempt System 1 to jump. They consistently found that even well-educated people, including experts, made predictable mistakes. Those mistakes are not random. They fall into patterns called cognitive biases. Confirmation bias is one of the biggest. Once you have an opinion, you selectively notice information that proves you right and ignore what challenges you. If you are bullish on a particular sector, every positive news headline feels like evidence you were correct. Negative data is dismissed as noise, or you explain it away until it fits your existing story. Availability bias is another trap. You judge importance and risk based on whatever is most vivid and recent in your mind, not on what is statistically most likely. If you keep seeing headlines about layoffs in tech, you may feel your own job is on the verge of collapse, even if your company is profitable and secure. At the same time, you might happily ignore more probable risks in your life simply because they are not in the news. Anchoring bias is what happens when your mind gets stuck on the first number it sees. That first number pulls all future judgments towards it, even when it is irrelevant. A charity first asks you to consider donating $400, then leaves you free to choose your amount. The average donation jumps much higher than when they first suggest $5. Nothing changed about people's kindness. The opening suggestion quietly anchored their sense of what is reasonable. The narrative fallacy is our addiction to stories. We hate randomness, so we force events into clean storylines and then believe our stories are truth. Two boxers might be evenly matched, and the result could easily go either way. But after the fight, commentators invent narratives about who had more heart, who crumbled under pressure, and why the outcome was inevitable. If they fight again, the same commentators predict the result as if their story is a law of nature, even though the match is still highly uncertain. Narrow framing is another dangerous habit. You look at one decision in isolation instead of in the context of your overall life and portfolio. That is how people fall into the planning fallacy, underestimating how long projects will take because they mentally assume everything will go right. It is also how they fall for the sunk cost fallacy, throwing more time and money into a failing project only because they have already invested so much. All of this leads to a simple conclusion. Left alone, your fast system will make biased decisions, and your slow system will often just nod along. Now, how does this play out with money, risk, and career choices? Traditional economics assumed people are rational actors. Expected utility theory says you calculate potential gains and losses, multiply them by their probabilities, and pick the option with the highest expected benefit. Kahneman shows this is not how most people behave. Consider this simple choice. Option 1, 80% chance to win $100, 20% chance to win 10. Option 2, a guaranteed $80. If you calculate expected value, option 1 is mathematically better. But most people choose the certainty of $80. We do not just chase maximum expected value. We trade off between emotion and logic, and often the emotions win. This is where prospect theory comes in. Kahneman and Tversky built a model of decision-making that respects how real humans feel, not how ideal rational robots should think. Prospect theory rests on three key points. First, you judge outcomes relative to a reference point, usually your current situation or what you expected. If you expected a 10% raise and get 5%, you feel disappointed, even though you are objectively better off than last year. Second, you experience gains and losses proportionally, not absolutely. $100 means a lot when you have only 100. It feels trivial when you are already a millionaire. Third, losses hurt more than equivalent gains feel good. The pain of losing 1,000 rupees is stronger than the pleasure of gaining 1,000 rupees. This is loss aversion. From an evolutionary point of view, organisms that treated threats as more urgent than opportunities were more likely to survive. These ideas lead to two powerful effects, the possibility effect and the certainty effect. The possibility effect explains why a tiny chance of a huge gain or loss captures your imagination. Going from 0% chance to 5% chance of winning $1 million feels massive, even if 5% is still very unlikely. That is why lotteries, casinos, and startup jackpots are so psychologically attractive. A small chance of a big upside dominates your thinking. The certainty effect works in the other direction. We overvalue outcomes that feel guaranteed. The emotional jump from 95% chance of recovery to 100% feels huge, even though mathematically it is just another 5%. We crave that feeling of guaranteed and we pay a premium for it. Think about this in your own life. You might cling to a stable but unfulfilling job because the salary feels certain, while turning down a better long-term path that has slightly more risk. Or you might buy low-quality financial products that advertise guaranteed benefits, ignoring that the real return after inflation and costs is terrible. Underneath all of this, Kahneman says there are actually two selves inside you, the experiencing self and the remembering self. The experiencing self lives moment by moment. It feels pleasure and pain as they happen. The remembering self comes later. It looks back, picks out a few key moments, and tells the story of how things went. The remembering self does not track every moment equally. It follows two rules: the peak-end rule and duration neglect. The peak-end rule means you judge an experience mostly by its most intense moment and how it ended, not by the total sum of all moments. Duration neglect means the length of the experience matters surprisingly little in your memory. A long project with months of moderate stress but a great final result may be remembered as positive. Another project with mostly good days but a nasty ending can be remembered as awful. The problem is that we let the remembering self dominate our decisions. We choose futures that will give us impressive stories, even if they require years of daily misery for the experiencing self. Think of someone who spends decades in a job they hate, only to enjoy a brief, comfortable retirement. Or a student who believes, I will suffer without sleep or joy for 3 years, then my life will start, and then repeats that pattern again and again. Kahneman's message is not that one self is good and the other is bad. Both matter, but if you ignore either one, you pay a price. Now let us turn this into something practical for your work, money, and habits. First, start naming your two systems. When you feel a strong instant reaction, ask yourself, is this my fast system talking? Before making a big career or financial move, force system 2 to wake up. Write down the decision, the reasons for it, and what evidence would prove you wrong. Second, build friction against impulsive choices. For any large money move, create a 24-hour cooling off rule. If you want to buy a stock because everyone is talking about it, you are likely under availability bias and narrative fallacy. Wait a day, look at the base rates, the actual numbers, and ask, if I did not already own or love this company, would I still buy it? Third, fight confirmation bias by actively searching for disconfirming evidence. Before taking a job, for example, do not just talk to people who are happy there. Find at least one person who left and ask why. Fourth, protect yourself from anchors. Before going into a salary negotiation or a deal discussion, decide your own range based on independent research. Do not let the first number on the table define what feels reasonable to you. Fifth, avoid narrow framing. Do not look at one stock, one quarter, or one offer in isolation. Ask, how does this fit my total portfolio of time, money, and energy? A risky bet might be fine if it is a small portion of a strong base, but dangerous if it is your entire foundation. Sixth, use loss aversion to your advantage. Since you hate losing more than you enjoy winning, structure your environment so that quitting on good habits feels like a loss. For example, commit publicly to a savings or investment plan. If you break it, make yourself donate money to a cause you dislike or impose a penalty that hurts just enough. Seventh, balance your two selves. Design a life where your days are not miserable in the name of a future story, but you also do not destroy your future for short-term comfort. Choose work that is engaging in the present and build skills and opportunities for the future. Plan for moments that your remembering self will value, but not at the cost of constant daily suffering. Now let us condense this into 3 sharp takeaways. First, your brain is not a neutral calculator. It is a storytelling, shortcut-using machine that needs to be supervised. Second, emotions like fear of loss, love of certainty, and attraction to small chances of big wins quietly drive a lot of your financial and career decisions. If you do not account for them, they will manipulate you. Third, long-term success comes from respecting both selves inside you, the one living today and the one telling the story tomorrow. You need decisions that feel right in the moment and still look wise in hindsight. If you want the PDF notes used to break down this book, comment PDF below. When I see your comment, I will share the link so you can go through every key idea yourself. Also tell me in the comments which book you want decoded next. Your comment might decide the next video. This is Blood, Sweat, Gold, where luxury is earned, not inherited.